beginning. Hi, this is Marilyn Harding, and we're at Exhilarated Life Podcast, and my co-host Hilary Bowring, and we're thrilled that you're back with us. We got into a really interesting beginning to talk about um, finding your soul self that Hilary teaches and has written about in her book. Is Find Your Soul Through Your Heart, or your tell me the correct
In your heart.
in your heart. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, and it's
Hi,
all
everyone, by the way.
yes, there's an opportunity. Um, in our last discussion, Hilary told the story of how she really got firmly on the spiritual path, and it started just before the death of her husband. And one of the comments that Hilary made that resonated with me was she had already started on the spiritual path, and then this terrible thing happened. Her husband died at 44. I think many of us either come to the spiritual path through a cataclysm in our lives where we're on our knees and we beg for help, or we choose to go on a spiritual path and then we find a cataclysmic event. Somehow we edit that and tell ourselves that, why did this happen? I'm getting it wrong. Um, Perhaps, Hilary, you can illuminate that question that I think we all have because you expressed it yourself.
Yes. I guess I wasn't 100% clear because I did start the spiritual path through adversity the first time because my husband was a recovering alcoholic. So that was in the 80s. And I had a dear friend, and she was also on it through adversity, actually, both of us were. And it was in the 80s where everyone was, making lots of money and buying big houses and cottages. And we were not looking at that. We were looking at the spiritual journey, the inner journey, in a way of trying to make sense of what was happening on the addiction front. And I remember her saying to me, well, of course, why would you do this unless something was going wrong? It's such hard work. So I guess having started the spiritual path and looking for spiritual growth through that adversity, it was just devastating to then have my husband die. And so that really made me question everything I believed in, including the spiritual ideas I had at that point. So it began through a conversation with him from spirit to have a new understanding. I guess at that point, we were still at that stage of, why would bad things happen to good people? So a lot of people I know have had that, just horrifying, like how can this happen to an innocent child and all of those things. So we were still at that stage before he died, thinking we just carry on doing these good things, then it'll ensure that our lives will be good too. So, yes, so I guess though, once you've made that decision to go on the spiritual journey, more things will come in to challenge you.
Yes, that's the fine print, isn't
it? Yes.
I remember I named my company Artemis Alliance. I did an oracle card. This was before Light Beam. And the card, it was Doreen Virtue card, and I pulled the card Artemis, and it said your life purpose. You're not doing your life purpose because you're worried about your family and you're worried about different things, and just go ahead and do it and know that your prayers have been answered. And so I went to my husband. I said, whatever I do, I'm going to name it Artemis because this is my promise that everything is as it should be. Anyway, so I did open my business, and 2 weeks later, my husband was rushed to hospital, and 4 years later, he was gone. So, and it was the same with my Reiki mastery. When I began that, I was in the midst of his illness, and I said to my Reiki mistress, I mentioned Rebecca Couch, I can't do this. And she said, because things were becoming so horrific, I thought I'm just not ready for a spiritual journey. And I could still hear the smile in her voice when she said, but you signed a contract. I said, yeah, but with spirit, And she said, yes, but it was a contract with yourself.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And once you make that commitment, as Carolyn May says, put on your seatbelts.
Yes.
Once you're willing, you're going to go.
Yes. So it does, challenges come with it, But of course, without challenges, life would be dull anyway. Really, if you think about it, it really was, the Garden of Eden every day. We'd just get bored, We'd invent a snake or something.
That's right. Bored and chubby, like so many are finding in the COVID shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
Our soothing is food often, and inactivity.
Yes.
Netflix binges. And so I think many people, and myself included, when you're on the path, you know that this is going to happen. You understand it, as we mentioned in the last discussion. It's hard to remember that when you're neck deep in alligators, that you're in the midst of something that you will be grateful for later. But I think there's so many gurus on the internet, all teaching you things, and because they're selling courses, they're selling dependency. And I think that oftentimes their message is, you're doing great, but you just need this thing that I've got.
Very good point.
And you need to sign up for the 20, whatever it is. And I think that there's a big message of something lacking in us. And I speak for myself. What am I doing wrong? What subconscious pattern am I not aware of that's sabotaging me, because I'm still going through some pretty difficult things? Not stopping to realize that those are the very difficult things that, you've got to work out to build your muscles. There's no fast track for that. There's no, there may be epiphanies in spiritual practice, but there's pretty much a continued practice, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and I would certainly agree with you. I hadn't thought about the courses in the way that you expressed it, but it does create dependency when there's this idea that I can solve this for you. Whereas, what I know you do and what I try to do in my own life with any people that I help in a counseling or healing capacity is helping them find that place, that self-healing place, and that empowerment inside that already exists. So it's like, and we're all making, we have ups and downs, and we're not going to be on a straight line going anywhere, because we're learning and discovering. But it's like, to help people, I suppose the other thing that keeps coming to me is that we are perfect in our imperfection. There's also this sort of drive within our culture to be perfect and think, oh, damn, I didn't do that right. That's gone wrong again. Whereas it's just to understand and love our own humanity.
Yeah,
and to
where we are now.
Yes, where we are now. And I know in my own experience, maybe it was with you as well, after David died, I didn't read another book because I didn't believe in anything. So I had to go inside myself to find a wisdom that was my own.
Well, I found after George died, well, I'd been writing through those years, writing little notes, notes to self, and little blog posts, and that resulted in my book, Exhilarated Life, because what I found was, when I found the ancient wisdom, the Bhagavad Gita, or modern wisdom with Wayne Dyer or Eckhart Tolle or whatever, they explained what it looks like when it's all good. And I'm thinking, okay, I get that, but it's not all good where I am now. How do I get through that? So I would write little stories about, okay, this is happening in my life, and this is my challenge, and this is how I look at that. And it was through that writing that I sort of unpacked ancient and modern wisdoms.
Yes.
To support me. So, but I must admit that I did get to the point where I stopped opening books, because you get to the point where it's not that you outgrow the gurus, you outgrow the training wheels on your bicycle, and you need to pedal for yourself and really start picking, and I'd say mentors. And that's why I think what we're doing is so powerful, because when you work with people, it's going to be a one-on-one or a one in a small group. So it's very different from these massive movements in enlightenment, spirituality, success, all of that stuff. So I think that there are different levels where we need different teachers. And
yes, and of course, information is expanding. We're all getting more things from spirit in a collective sense. So we're getting more understanding than we were able to comprehend even 10 years ago. New modalities coming in, the whole quantum thinking, that speeds healing up, all of those things. I guess the other thing I just wanted to bring in when you were talking about what happens in these experiences of adversity is that it's important to feel the feelings. A lot of
Yes.
a lot of the ideas almost say, move through it. Well, I didn't find that. I don't think that is. I think we have to feel feelings. We don't want to get locked in them forever, but to allow that if it is grief. I didn't bypass grief. I knew I couldn't. I must have had, I know I've had grief in many lifetimes. So I knew this time I had to be with the pain. And so whatever it is that's, that's the emotion that we experience, it's important to feel it.
I think this is extremely important, and this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about when you talk about the ego self is we identify with an ego self, and through that we identify with our thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
And just to clarify, rather than, we think they're ours, we think they are us, but they are feelings moving through us. They're appropriate or inappropriate.
That's
There's
right.
no inappropriate, but they are there. And as you say, we need to feel them. And I've written about a therapy called focusing, which is like this.
Yes,
There's
I know
many
that.
things.
Yeah.
Or EFT, tapping is the same thing. You identify it because it's there. It's real.
Yes.
It's in your body.
That's why I do love tapping, because it does start from that point. It does start from, because the body knows it's there.
Exactly.
Like, the body is so wise, and we don't listen to it enough, but the body knows it's there. It doesn't, it's not going to buy into it unless you start with that admission. Yes, I accept this. It's with me. Yeah. So I think that's a wonderful aspect. I think that's what makes it work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, you sit with that emotion, you let it be, and it's like a demanding child. As soon as you're on the telephone, your child is there, and instead of pushing it away, the child, or the feeling, if you allow it, or if you stop and pay attention to it, so it knows it's seen, it's heard, then you can carry on with life. And I think it's very similar to that. Allow that feeling to be there. Often it is an inner child that's
yes,
I want your attention because you didn't grieve enough, you didn't, you weren't angry enough, you didn't express your anger, because sometimes it's not just sadness or sorrow or grief, it's anger, and it's righteous anger, and it's anger is one of our many emotions that are human and need to be
Yes, I do. Obviously, every day we'll have these opportunities to feel things, and anger can come up. I even had this experience a few weeks ago, walking down a pathway. We're meant to be in social distancing. It's a very narrow path, and people, when they see you at one end, they sort of wait for you to go by, and I wait for them. And then there are some people who are like wearing headsets, and they just kind of come and just go, oh, for God's sake, So I won't say exactly what I say because it's a swear word. But as I go by them, just to release it, they can't actually hear me, but it's just my way of releasing the anger, so I'll just say something, asshole or something under my breath. They can't hear me. And I come out the other side and I just feel better because I kind of expressed it. It wasn't any interaction that blew up into something. It was just like, it was a natural feeling. And so that to me is a simple way of dealing with anger sometimes, just, feeling the energy of it, maybe just saying something or doing something, just to
I think this is really important, and I think women have a problem with this because we've been bred to not show anger. I think parents often have a problem with that, holding in anger when, anger is a necessary expression. I love the analogy of horses because, mama horse will let her little foal run around and nip her and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as he goes too far, she just nips it. She gives him a little bite on the hind flank and it stops. So she's had enough. She's made her point. I think that when we don't acknowledge and
Yes,
own our
exactly.
emotions, including
Yeah,
anger, frustration. Then they go deep in the body, and then they bubble up
yes,
in inappropriate times. And I think this is probably what we're seeing with a lot of relationships and families in COVID that are locked in the house, that they're not
yeah.
dealing with their own fears, uncertainties, they're not talking about it. So it comes out in rage at times where it
Yeah,
just,
because it's been suppressed to a point where it turns into sort of the ugly end of some of these emotions. Yes,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yes,
yeah. So from identifying with it, so we go from the ego self to the soul self. And then
yes.
we find a deeper security in that because we're not looking outside for our security.
That's right. It is. I mean, it's once we get to real connection with our soul self, because it is, and it does have to include the inner journey. You know, it's part of the pathway is or that shift from the outer journey to the inner journey that leads us to the soul self. And then once we can be there, and of course it takes daily practice to sort of hold that place of connection, but then we can become much more steady. We can stay much more calm, no matter what life serves, no matter what's happening on around us, including all the things that are happening now. So it's just like able to hold a state of more contentment and steadiness, really steadiness. You know, even though there's stuff going on around outside, you just know you're anchored in because you know that this isn't the only reality. Frankly, you know, this is not the only reality. You know, and the soul has access to other realities to you.
Mm.
Yes, so
And we have
it's
to be quiet so we can hear that, hear the
yes,
soul tell us that.
yes,
So you bring up daily practices, and I like that. And I think that's one of the most profound things that I have started to. I mean, I've done all this practice, but not on a committed daily. Yes, I'll do yoga today. Oh, I forgot, or meditate, or I'm too upset to meditate right now. And one of the things that I've started doing, and I know you do it every morning because we're trying to figure out our timing, is I spend quite a lot of time in the morning begin my busy day, uh, in reflection and exercise, gentle stretching, meditation, affirmations. And I know you do this too. And I think this is a really important thing that we do to begin our day if we can possibly.
well, I guess. Am I interrupting you? Because I didn't
No.
want to. I was. No, okay. It was just reminding me of, when I said I was on the journey before David died, I was working in the corporate world. But one of the things that I had already integrated was meditation. So even though I was in the corporate world, I would get up 10 minutes early and just sit in my kitchen living area and just do a guided meditation. It was to this wonderful Steve Halpern music. It was
Ah,
beautiful.
yes, I know him well.
Music. Yes, it's gorgeous. So I would just sit there for 10 minutes. And I remember when I started doing this meditation, I would start to cry. And David would say, "Are you okay? But I think it was just because of connecting with that soul place. I think a lot of people, when they newly do the connection with the soul, feel like a relief, I suppose. It's just like a beautiful sort of loving feeling, I suppose. So there was that. So I made 10 minutes time. I know it must be much more difficult if you have children running around. I get that, but maybe between a couple they could. And then when I was in the car going to work, right, I wouldn't put the news on. I would be sending Love Ahead. And at
Yes.
that stage, I used to have tapes. Remember when cars had
Yes.
tapes?
Yes. Yes,
and,
I do.
and I would have Louise Hay on, with lots
Oh,
of
yeah.
affirmations. So I was filling myself a little bubble before I got to work, and I'd sent Love Ahead,
Mm.
and it actually did work. I was in advertising. It's a lot of it's an anxiety profession, really.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was so much better doing that. So I'm only mentioning those two things because they could be like, you don't have to have like, oh, I've got this big practice, half an hour meditation. We can do that more now because we're retired. Yeah.
Mm.
But even if
And
you've got a full life, yeah.
and to be
I know
and
we're
to
not
be silent.
retired.
And sometimes it's not about silence, and because we can't ever stop the thoughts going through our heads, but it's like, beginning with a guided meditation or finding something that resonates with you, or a mantra or something
Yes.
that occupies the mind. But when those thoughts come up, just let them, like the feelings, let them come up and let them go away in a minute. So I think that it would be perhaps good to, if you think that we could do this exercise now and then, maybe reflect on it before we wrap up. Does that sound right to you?
Oh, yes. I mean, because we can just, but I wanted to get these in like you did too. So I guess the first exercise is to help to open the heart, right? So to go back a little bit, what this exercise is going to include is breathing and toning, right? So one of the things that is getting a lot more understanding is the healing medicine of sound.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly interested in that. And because it's also, we're all used to sound affecting us. We know that, music can affect us. In particular, someone's playing the crystal bowls and you want to get into a meditative state in the group, then that kind of sound comes in and does affect the brain waves, and you can move more rapidly into an alpha state. Then there's the other sound, which recognizes that we are vibrating. We are actually energy, that every piece of us, even though we seem to be solid, is actually a vibration holding everything together. And so that is vibroacoustics. So that's recognizing that, in the beginning was the world was made flesh. So it starts to be possible when you understand that, working with those kind of sounds with intention, how they can change and heal us. Because what happens with sound when you have a pure pitch, because you have a soul print and a soul sound, so your body knows that. And when it's ill or it's occluded in some way, or there's a limitation of the block or whatever you like, having this sound that's where the body knows it's meant to be. So the cells know they want to be there. So they start to shed the dissonance.
So is that with
they entrain with the correct sound. Yeah.
So is that how tuning forks work?
Yes. Yes. Tuning forks. Yes, definitely. I love those a lot. But there's also this. The best part about this is we can just use our own voice.
Oh.
So we don't need an input.
Okay, great. I love that. Because I do love toning.
Yes. Yeah. So with this particular one, because it's the heart, we will, when we get to this point, we'll use the one of the tones to open the heart is Ma, M-A, Ma, Ma. And I mean, that's like a universal expression of life. Like Mama. All the languages, different languages, always have the Mama, Mia, Ma, Amand, like it's fascinating how Ma means mum, and love. Yeah. So I guess that's why it's the one that works best at opening the heart. So you can stay sitting down, or some people might want to stand up. I'll stay sitting down, otherwise you won't see me on the screen, I don't think. So if you're sitting down, just put your feet hip width apart, right? And just picture big roots going down into the earth through your feet, right down into Mother Earth. And just place your hands on your lap and take a deep breath into your belly and breathe out loud through your mouth. And take another deep breath in through your belly and imagine the energy coming up from the earth to your heart. And do a breathe out at your heart. And as you're at your heart, you put your shoulder blades to touch each other so that your heart automatically raises a little bit when you do that. And this time, take a deep breath in to your heart and send the energy up to your throat, out through your crown. So deep breath in. So now you've opened up the crown above and the chakras above the crown. So that's your connection with the divine realm. So now imagine breathing in through your crown breathing into your crown, and then sending that breath right down through the channel of your body, your energy body, right down into earth. So deep breath in together through the crown, and breathe it out right through your body, through your nose. When you're back in the earth again, bring another breath up from the earth, right up, and breathe out through the crown. So now you're breathing up and down the central channel of your energy system. So now draw in from the crown again, but this time breathe out through your heart. And this time, when you breathe in, we're going to breathe out and make the sound ma. And follow me, because we'll do it 3 times. I'll do 3 different tones, 3 different pitches, I should say. Okay, so breathe into your heart. Ma. And each time you do that, bring your heart up, put your shoulders back to each other. Do another one, deep breath in. Ma. Another deep breath in. Just put your hands over your heart for a minute. Now you can just bring your attention back into the room and open your eyes.
Wow. I don't want to come back.
Well, what you can do with that, each person can, is try different pitches and see which one resonates most with your own heart.
Oh, it was lovely because
want
you
to
could
go viral.
feel the vibration. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that was lovely. Good. That was really lovely. And I hope people, when they watch this, will do the exercise with us. And then we want to talk later. We've still got some time left to chat. But afterwards, I want to direct everyone to the link below to a meditation to open the heart that you have on YouTube.
Yes.
We'll put that link.
Yeah, I guess I'll just talk a little bit about, I don't think I mentioned this actually, but the heart is the center of all sacred places. So that is why our soul resides. It's called the seat of the soul. So when we imagine connecting with our heart, as we did in the toning, you're trying to connect with the back of your heart, which is called the inner heart center. So that's, our front's about our ego and going forward. And when we go like that, we have a more expanded state and we connect with the bigger picture, really, with the universal heart. So that's really the basis of the meditation, that you move into that place of the inner heart center and connect there with your soul. The meditation is just about 10 minutes long because, again, it's like people have very rushed lives and they don't, because meditation as a regular practice, heart-centered meditation, I've got several of them on the YouTube channel, but they always start there. They always connect into the heart. And so that, when you do that regularly, that starts to create the relationship in an ongoing way, a daily way with your soul. So it's like everything, it takes practice, like you were saying earlier. There are no quick fixes. Well, I suppose there are some quick fixes, but in general,
Yes, but
you have to practice. Yeah.
I think also we have pushed things away. We've cut off our own communication with our deeper self. Indeed, we've done it with our own bodies. We've shut off communication with our bodies, with our souls, with everything except up here. And I think there's a shyness there. The soul needs to be. It's like inviting a bird into your hand. You can't grab at it, but if you're gentle and soft and allowing, it comes forward, and it comes forward in gentle ways, and it comes forward in miraculous ways too. And I think then you begin to witness things like synchronicity and this inner joy. And you mentioned also the sense of deeper security you mentioned in the last discussion, when you're dealing from your soul self. You're not dependent on external events. You're just, and you can be happy in the midst of turbulence.
Yes.
I'm loving these times together with you, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And we'll have to have some interesting ideas about where you're going with your practice. I want to suggest to anyone that wants to go deeper into Hilary's work to contact her through her website. All of these links will be below. Look for her book on Amazon. .ca or .com, wherever.
.com,
yeah. .co.uk, wherever we're buying.
No, it's not
It's not there?
Yeah, .com. It was on .com, but I think that was just a brief spell. So now it's .com. Yeah.
I know my book is, I'll just give a plug for my book, Exhilarated Life, Discovering Inner Happiness. I thought I had all the answers and published the book, and then discovered there were more layers. So there's another book coming. But
The Fully Exhilarated Life.
That's right. That's why I called the podcast Exhilarated Life, because I think it's what we all deserve and what we're all on this planet to experience. Thank you so much, Hilary, for co-hosting this, and we're looking forward to inviting some guests on with us. And we'll know we'll line that up for next time, perhaps.
Well, wonderful to be here. So enjoyed it all. And to everyone, namaste. Yeah, who's watching.
And thank you to you, Hilary. Thank you.